Our guest today is Ian Jansen Van Rensburg, who's the Chief Technology Officer for Sub-Saharan Africa at VMware. Welcome to the podcast, Ian.
Thanks a lot, Faris. I was very impressed with that pronunciation that you did on my name and my surname.
Yeah.
I understand that my surname is more of a sentence than anything else. And I'm not talking about a sentence, I mean it's like a jail sentence to pronounce it. So thanks for that one.
You're welcome. It's more like a haiku than anything else.
Yes. That's why I say jumbo.
Yeah.
Yes.
So just give us a brief background on who you are. Like, how did you get into tech? Your life story.
Okay, that's an interesting one. Yeah, so as far as said, my name is Ian. I've been in the IT industry for over 25 years. Worked for several companies before I joined VMware. I was operations director, worked with technology sets like Microsoft, Citrix, and you name it back in the day. Started with VMware about 16 years back as a senior solutions engineer. Moved onwards to into management, and currently I'm the solutions engineering director and local SSA CTO for VMware Sub-Saharan Africa. And to be honest, I've never looked back since I've joined VMware. Awesome company, awesome innovation.
Yeah. So what does your day job look like?
Day job, I actually do nothing. But when I do something, I actually have a lot of customer meetings, a lot of partner meetings. I love to discuss, what VMware is doing in the customer space, in the partner space. We do presentations these days. I've been traveling a lot, specifically with vForum and all our events that we've been having. But then also, I am also a manager, and I feel a manager should lead by example. I try to stay up to point with all the technology sets and so forth that we have, which is very difficult sometimes in VMware because we do bring out a lot of software and a lot of innovation in a short period of time. And at night, when I'm supposed to sleep, I study for my master's in digital transformation at the University of Hull. So, I'm not, like I said, I do nothing.
But you also do a lot.
Yes.
How do you think CIOs should navigate the various challenges that they face today? Because the challenges we face generally as an industry move from sovereignty to security to modernizing your workloads. How do you think? What feedback will you have for how they should handle these challenges?
If I could give advice for CIOs today, it really starts with your people. The technology is out there. There's a lot of case studies. We know the technology works. We know that cloud works, even though it can be expensive, but it works. We know that the focus should be on security and infrastructure and applications and cloud and all that type of stuff. But if you're not going to incorporate all of those things to match the people and process within the company, you're gonna be in trouble. If the people and process is not behind all of that, and you have various silos within the company, you're gonna stay in that siloed state, and you would not be able to drive innovation faster and move forward. So something is either going to break the silos, force you to break the silos, or if you have a very good informed CIO, you'll create something like a center of excellence where you can have representatives of each silo in the center of excellence, and then so being, actually start breaking down the silos gradually.
Yeah. So your feedback is basically that the role of the CIO is more managing people and less focused on the actual technology.
I think it's about a 50-50. A lot of CIOs these days are becoming more and more technical. They want to understand more about the technology so that the influencers or the people, their teams, if they come to them and say, hey, Mr. CIO, we need to take everything to the cloud, that the CIO can make an informed decision on what he or she should be doing with the technology that's being put in front of them. But a big part of that is to get the people aligned, to get the people positive, and to keep them, innovative and focused on what they need to do.
Yeah. And so, what role do you believe tech strategy plays in a CIO's job on a daily basis?
Tech strategy, I mean, ultimately, a CIO will never get into a space where they're touching the nuts and the bolts. I mean, not even myself. I'm not. Don't ask me to go and configure a port on a switch or deploy a router or something like that. I'm not on that technical level anymore.
Unless it's family.
Maybe,
Yeah.
but I also, I mean, it's. I think a CIO should know enough to be dangerous. They should have a high level idea of everything that they want to do. They should have an architectural background so that they know how everything fits together, whether it's storage or networking or security and so forth. And I have seen CIOs become much more technically orientated as well as business orientated, where the CIO of the past was seriously businessly or business orientated, sat with a budget, and allowed their teams to make the decisions on their behalf. That's definitely changing.
And so, more speaking more about risks, what is something you feel that CIOs miss today on a daily basis? Something that's important that basically nobody's paying attention to.
A lot of CIOs that I've spoken to, specifically in the financial sector, uh, has told me we've got a cloud first strategy. And because some of the mega cloud providers are marketing quite well and they're selling a good story, the CIO automatically says, we're going to go to cloud. We're going to take everything that we have in our private data center, just move it into the cloud. And that's the way we're going to, don't renew your VMware, don't renew anything, just go to cloud. And I think the picture that they're missing here is it's not so easy to just go to the cloud. There's a lot of red tape, there's security risks, you have lock-in, the cost is a big factor, and then obviously the skills that you need to implement for each and every single cloud vendor. So I would say CIOs need to double think the cloud first approach, because that will lead to cloud chaos. But what VMware is saying, you need to be cloud smart and you need to have the ability to run on any cloud infrastructure um, uh, wherever in the world.
Yeah. And so, related to that, when it comes to cloud migrations in particular, what do you feel should be the biggest priority for a firm?
Cloud migrations, I always say, and I know when in 2006, when Steve Ballmer jumped on stage sweating profusely, he shouted, developers, developers, developers. And you know what? I agree with him. Developers are very, very important to customers today and to drive innovation. I think Steve Ballmer just shouted developers a little bit early. If he did that today, he would have been a massive hero. Not that I'm saying he's not. But with cloud migration, one of the biggest things I think CIOs and their teams need to focus on is what applications are running within the infrastructure. Having a cloud first approach is great, but if you don't know what applications are running in your infrastructure and you don't know what the dependencies of those applications are, like core banking, can you just move your core banking environment into the cloud? It's my answer is no.
Yeah.
Is there banks that develop their core banking as a function in the cloud, like Nubank? Yes. They started off with containers and microservices running on AWS and Docker. So different strokes for different folks, but ultimately it comes down to the end user experience, and modern business will run on modern applications. They need to look at their application strategy.
Yeah. You've worked for VMware for a while, and one of the things I was wondering is, what have you learned from your customers? Because you've sort of had a smorgasbord of experience. You've worked with banks, telcos, startups, and everyone. What have you learned from them, and what do you feel they should appreciate about your role as a vendor?
What I've learned from customers is a lot of customers is scared of change.
Yeah.
They do not want to be the cowboys. They want to be the city planners. They want to have traffic lights in place. They want to have good roads. They don't want to be the cowboys that actually implement the new technology first and test it. And I'm not saying that's all customers. There is customers that absolutely they are the cowboys, and they are the ones that if new technology comes out, they install it immediately and test it out. So what I've learned is some customers actually are dragging behind the curve of technology. And that is because they are scared of change. They don't want to get out of their comfort zone because they're too scared they're gonna not be on that 99.999% uptime ratio to deliver on the business needs. So I would say, moving forward, you need to fail fast, get it right, and move on. It's about 99% planning, 1% execution, but you have to start somewhere. You have to start. If we're talking about modern applications, it doesn't help a customer keeps on hearing about modern applications and Tanzu and Kubernetes and microservices and containers and everything. They have to start. They have to start somewhere by implementing it and by running that environment and testing it, and then slowly but surely starting to implement it.
Okay. And so, what do you wish they learned about like VMware? Because I've observed that customers tend to struggle with trust when it comes to vendors, because the whole idea is that you're looking to make a buck, and so
Mm,
there's a very adversarial relationship between the vendor and the customer. And so you've worked for both the end users, the resellers, and now the vendor.
correct.
How would you wish people better understood your role?
Well, I'll give you a live example. I won't mention the customer name, but it is a large um, customer of ours in South Africa, but they're also worldwide. They also have offices in the UK and America and all over the world. And I asked him, why VMware? Why is he such a champion and why so pro VMware as a vendor? And his answer to me was, Ian, I know VMware's got my back. In other words, he said, if I implement VMware software in my company, I know you will not drop the ball. You would, if there's a bug, you will try your best to fix it. Support will always be on my side. They're just a phone call away and or a web click away from our site. And from a sales perspective, from an SE perspective, you always go the extra mile to bring that and solidify the backing of VMware as a company.
Yeah.
And I can vouch for that. VMware does not back down from a problem when a customer hits a problem, and our software is also solid enough and stable enough that customers don't experience a serious amount of downtime, etc. If VMware is running within their environment.
So it's ultimately just boils down to trust.
Boils down to trust, but trust is earned.
Yeah.
And VMware over the years have earned our trust in the market space as the most stable, the most reliable hypervisor technology and virtualization provider. And we didn't do that purely because we forced trust upon our customers. We had to earn it.
Yeah.
The proof is in the pudding.
Yeah.
Where the rubber meets the road is when a customer has been running VMware non-stop with zero downtime for 5+ years.
Yeah.
And they're still sitting on a very old version of VMware, but guess what? It runs.
Yeah.
They've almost forgotten about it.
Yeah. And so shifting gears to basically talking about Africa, sub-Saharan Africa in particular, what are your thoughts on the tech ecosystem as you see it, and the level of maturity that we have as a market?
I must say, I travel quite a lot. I've traveled to the States, I've traveled to Europe, and I do travel a lot in Africa. Countries that I go to is Nigeria. I was been recently been to Ghana, Nigeria, now Kenya. I also traveled to Botswana, Namibia, and some of the other ones, Angola, and so forth. And what I see is a need to learn more. So in Africa, the people that's in Africa are curious, they want to learn, and they want to increase their skill levels. And I would not say from an Africa perspective we are behind the curve, which concerns European or American type of countries. I think the only place where we're lacking might be connectivity. So in many countries, connectivity and access to internet and access to good electricity might not be the issue in Kenya anymore. I heard that you've got some good electricity running in the country, but even South Africa at the moment, which is part of Africa, by the way, in any case, some people don't think that, but we've got some serious issues regarding electricity. So if we look at the electricity problem, um, and some people that want to immigrate to Australia and the Netherlands and some other places, we are losing some good skill in Africa, and the shortage of electricity, networking, internet access, and so forth is actually holding us back. But I don't think the willingness to learn and to change is the problem.
Okay. So, what do you see as the future of tech in Africa?
Future of tech in Africa. That's a great question there, Fariz. So I would say with Africa, there's lots of challenges. There's access to internet challenges, like I mentioned. Now, there's power challenges. There's various other challenges that we have to deal with in a third world country that first world countries don't have to deal with. But it's also to our advantage. Because of those challenges, we are innovating very quickly. I mean, look at M-Pesa and what you are doing here in Kenya with M-Pesa and the way that you pay and so forth. It's far. It's really come a long way, and it's far beyond the type of payment technologies and so forth that's in the rest of the world. But this is in Kenya, you know. So you have found a way to take a problem and put a solution to that problem. So the future of tech in Africa, I would say, is innovative technology that is built on, it could be vendors, it could be developers that developed a technology to actually counter challenges that you have in Africa.
And what does the future hold for you as Ian?
Hey, man, the future hold for me as Ian. Well, I really, really do hope VMware, keeps the family like culture, our epic values, and so forth. And if VMware maintains its epic values, our great culture, our great innovative technology, the future for me, I'd like to stick in VMware.
Yeah.
I'd like to still stay. It doesn't mean because I've been there for 15 years, I can't be there for another 15 years.
Yeah.
I really do like VMware as a company.
Yeah.
So I really do hope we keep on innovating, but without changing and fundamentally changing our culture and our people.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if that massively changes, the future might be, I don't know, at another venture capital company somewhere.
Yeah. Thank you so much for making the time today, Ian. We appreciate it.
No problem. Thanks for you, for hosting me. Been a pleasure. Thanks.
Fantastic. That marks the end of the podcast. Thank you.
Thanks.